Should we do a little TV?
That's what we needed, a little TV.
Where is Shania Twain?
It's a good question.
I feel like she hadn't had a big hot lately.
You need to see more of her.
Yeah, I like Shania Twain.
I like Shania Twain.
Welcome,
Shania,
guys.
come join us on the couch.
Lisa Marie Boothe, as she's known on Twitter.
Yes.
We know her as Lisa
Yes.
Boothe.
Yes.
We know
Very
her middle
well
name
known.
because of Twitter.
It's true. You know, I think it was Lisa Boothe was taken.
Yep.
But my name is Lisa Marie Boothe, so that's
Love it.
That's
Lisa
not
Marie
fake
Boothe
news.
on
That's
Twitter
not fake
is very popular, and she was tweeting about me line dancing on New Year's Eve, for which hundreds of Twitter followers of hers want me to do that, which is not going to happen.
I think we signed ourselves up for something.
Nope,
that,
not me. Not
Nobody
me.
wants to see. It'd be a ratings disaster.
Yeah, email us at friends at foxnews.com. But we have
If
news
you want
we
to
must get to on this important Saturday
we
morning.
gotta go.
Join us this entire 4 hours. We got a lot coming at you, including this. We'll start with the president getting, there's so much noise, and we're going to get to the noise here in the program.
Yeah.
You've been hearing a lot about it. The so-called mainstream media is obsessing about it.
I think there's a book.
There
that's
might
out
be a
there.
book. We'll see.
I'm
Maybe it
hearing
came out
about it.
yesterday. But underneath it all is an administration laser focused on doubling down on the accomplishments they've already made, and a showdown with Democrats who want this DACA deal, who want amnesty for dreamers, but don't want to give anything for it, except they don't control any levers of power. So the question is, how does the government in power, this president, stare them down, get a wall, get an end to chain migration, get an end to the visa lottery system in exchange for a deal on DACA? And by the way, does the government shut down in the process? Washington hates that. The folks that voted for President Trump probably don't care if the government gets shut down. He's got to make that calculus, and he's got a chance to do some big things.
Well, and President Trump has tweeted previously, no wall, no deal on DACA. And it's going to be interesting to see what did Democrats do, because they got a lot of heat for the fact that Senator Chuck Schumer caved on DACA, because they really wanted, or immigration activists really wanted Chuck Schumer to hold the line, to not vote for a spending bill if it didn't include DACA. And he didn't, because they didn't want to be responsible for a government shutdown. So did they do the same on January 19th? Or what did Democrats do? And does President Trump hold the line and say, no deal on DACA unless I get the wall?
I'm the reporter usually doing Garrett Tinney's job for Fox and Friends all week long. I want to talk about DACA infrastructure, the proposal by the administration, $18 billion over 10 years to build the wall, and whether we have a government shutdown. That's important. But look, you cannot ignore this book. Okay, this is a tell-all book that came out very early, and the president, who is clearly, this book is about the gossiping and the infighting and the internecine battles going on in the early years, months of this administration, but it's now coming on the heels of the tax reform, the biggest accomplishment in 31 years in tax reform, and the president at Camp David now trying to move on these issues, but yet the president also is not going to let this go.
Chris,
Can I
ask you a question real quick? Okay, so on this book, do you think if something as salacious, which we've had even reporters like Maggie Haberman of the New York Times say that parts of it are disputed, do you think this would get the same amount of attention if the book was about President Obama?
Well, listen,
Honestly.
The honest answer, no, I don't. Because the takeaway from this book is that it was the justification that the president's critics and those that truly hate him in the media, now they have it. They've got the smoking gun that proves that he is somehow unfit. But Haberman and some others are saying that's really not there. Here's the thing, though. This book did do what perhaps Michael Wolff, one of the intended consequences, which is he knew President Trump would not let it go, particularly when the sales makes disparaging remarks from his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, against him and his family. And this is the tweet that I want to get to, the new tweet today.
Particular conversation. So what can you believe in this
book? And a couple of things, too. I mean, in the book, it alleges that President Trump didn't know who former Speaker John Boehner was. Yet back in 2013, they went golfing. So, of course, he knew who
and he
was.
referred to him on the campaign trail multiple times.
Well, and also, I've seen a couple of people bring this up on Twitter, and it's a great point of which one is it? Is it President Trump, as dumb as a box of rocks, didn't want to win, didn't think he was going to win?
That's Ivanka,
or is he this treasonous, guy who's been colluding with Russia and has, smartly swayed the election because of that? So which narrative is it? It's like the media can't decide. And I think when you have just basic facts, like the John Boehner thing, wrong. You've got reporters like the New York Times, which fundamentally hate President Trump. I mean, look at every article that has ever been published in the New York Times saying that, look, this guy has a history of getting things wrong. There's parts in this that I know myself, Maggie Haberman, saying is wrong. Then how can you take the entire book at face value. But that's what the media is doing.
I'll tell you, Lisa, you raised perhaps the most important question I've heard about this book since it came out. You asked me.
Would you like to stay
would this have been taken the same way had the book been right, about President Obama? But if I turn your question just a little bit, and that is, had President Obama in his first year accomplished tax reform that hadn't been done in 3 decades, and these other things that the president has done on his agenda, would he have gotten the diss that he has gotten from the mainstream media, the lack of coverage?
Yeah.
And Roger Stone, an advisor early on,
long-time compliment,
talked about the agenda a little bit. Let me play this out real quick.
Policy. The reality is they're putting their thumb on the scale and saying it's the White House's problem if this isn't bipartisan, because they want a wall and the end of chain migration, end of sanctuary cities, calling them hardline immigration measures that jeopardize bipartisan talks. What if you're dug in on defending illegals as your red line and you won't give anything in return? Like the Democrats, wouldn't you be imperiling bipartisan talks?
Also, here's the thing, too. President Trump ran on immigration. This was at the centerpiece of his campaign. The cornerstone of his campaign was building a wall. It was increasing border security.
The wall. It's
absolutely
clear.
And so now this is the leverage that President Trump has. If you want to get those immigration policies done, those immigration promises that he made to voters done, this is the time is now. It's with DACA. This is when this issue is going to come up. He's given Congress until March to address the DACA issue. And so the time is now. If President Trump wants to see something like the RAISE Act, which he endorsed, put forward by Senators Cotton and Perdue, addressing legal immigration and skilled work, bringing in, skilled workforce. If he wants to address the wall, if he wants to get that done, the time is now.
Well, we'll see. I mean, look, here's the thing. You got to put it in context, and that is Democrats resisted the president's agenda all year long, and he still got tax reform done. It was a huge accomplishment. Now we're going forward on issues like immigration, like infrastructure, that invite bipartisanship, that can't get done with 51 votes, need 60 votes. And so we'll see if headlines like this and actions by Democrats overplay their hand, because the president has put forth an actual plan. He says, look,
and
here's what I need.
He's willing to make.
I need
I'll give you DACA.
But here's the thing that we cannot ignore on this important, frigid Saturday morning, this book.
Oh, there's a book?
There's a book, Fire and Fury.
Real quick, Democrats are also in the minority. So if they want to get DACA done, like they're saying they're going to get done, they're also going to have to give something up to get it done.
Listen, the president working on that, but tweeting about the book. This is the overnight tweet you need.
So when you've got the New York Times on CNN, it's like double fake news alert. But in this particular case, she's speaking the truth that no one wants to hear, which is this is a gossip hearsay book that is meant to take down this administration, palace intrigue that everyone wants to talk about, as opposed to the accomplishments of this administration. When in actuality, it's terrible reporting based on a lot of things that are just not true.
And CBS's John Dickerson had said a while ago that the media is ruining their own reputation. And I think that is true. And I think the coverage of this book really underscores that point. And the problem is there's no concern for facts anymore. The facts don't matter. As long as something proves a narrative that the media wants to believe, whether it's sexism, racism, whether it's Russian collusion, now President Trump is mentally unfit, whatever the issue is, as long as it proves a narrative that is a negative for President Trump, the media goes along with it. And we've seen that with ABC, Brian Ross's report that was so categorically untrue. You had CNN not too long ago right after that, messing up a major date, which would mean something entirely different for the report. It didn't matter to them, though. They ran with the story because they wanted to believe the narrative, and the facts didn't matter. And I think we're seeing that with the coverage of this book. Again,
well, now they're all psychologists who can diagnose the mental health of the president. Take a listen.
Example of everything that was wrong with rock music, because when he hits that note after like the third phrase, like "Dream on," and he screams, that was my favorite part. At that point, I knew everything I needed to know about rock music in my life.
What do we want to bet that people's TVs are on mute right now?
Yeah, you don't want to hear that. So Dream On, I dream of a day, of a former day when I was a child, when I would watch ESPN and they would just play highlights, monster hits, dunks, home runs, because I love sports and I love watching the world's greatest athletes play games. Well, turns out ESPN, they want to have an opinion just like everybody else. If you want to watch an opinion, you could turn on our channel or MSNBC or somewhere else and get an opinion. But they keep dabbling in politics. And here's the latest. Her name is Katie Nolan, and she had this to say on Viceland. She's an ESPN reporter on another channel about President Trump. Listen.
Perhaps maybe not a strong enough statement for that sort of behavior. Obviously, we bleeped out the curse words and their
which
very
is really
disparaging remarks.
Just disgusting.
And Jameel Hill also with ESPN. So not the first time that we've got.
No, but it's
She
okay.
called the
but
president
hold
a
on.
white supremacist and kept her job with a slap on the wrist. Jameel Hill, to your reference.
But it's disgusting. I mean, why are you cursing on TV? I mean, it's a desperate plea for attention. I've never heard of her name before. Now we have. So congratulations, Katie Nolan. You got what you wanted because that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to become a name, and that's what we've seen from so many of these individuals. As you mentioned, Jameel Hall. I hadn't heard of her either before this, and now she went out, said something inflammatory about President Trump, and now people know who she is. Rosie O'Donnell, we hadn't heard from her in forever. She goes out, slams the president, and all of a sudden her name is in the media again. So this is what these individuals want. They want attention. They want their name to be out there. And congratulations, you did it. Well
There's
done.
a reason. Well, congratulations, ESPN. You're laying off hundreds of people because people are turning off the channel because they really just want to watch sports, and you're jamming social justice nonsense down their throat. Play sports. It's what we're interested in. Let us know. Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Is ESPN doing the right thing? Is ESPN on the right track? Do you really just want to watch sports, or do you want to watch more politics? I mean, why politics in my sports?
Yeah, you've heard from us.
Friends@foxnews.com. Yeah, we want to hear from you.
We want to hear what you guys have to say. All right, well, turning to some other headlines.
If it was in your house right now, we'd have great conversations with coffee. Because we have great conversations even in the break. We were talking about soccer. I'm not a soccer fan. I'm a football guy.
We're having a couch party.
We're having a couch party.
In their houses. And thank you for having us. And if you're at a house party with President Trump, you get on Twitter in a big way, and we're going to talk about that. I want to get right to this because it's actually quite a amazing thing that's happened on Saturday morning. President Trump, his own best defender, just lighting up Twitter in the face of his critics. But before we do that, let me just play the montage.
Well, there's a reason he's
of
doing it.
His critics, who happen to be, many of them, journalists.
Journalist types saying this is what they've wanted to say all along. They don't understand this president. So they've used this book, Fire and Fury, which everyone's talking about, palace intrigue, based on, half-truths at best, to make the case that this president is mentally unfit, which is something they've, as I said, they tried Russian collusion, they've tried impeachment. Now it's racism. This is their latest jab.
Well, and I'm sure you guys are not surprised at home, but President Trump has tweeted about this, and he said that now that...
Be lost, though, the significance of what's happening this morning, and that is, for whatever reason, now his nickname is Sloppy Steve Bannon, lets in a seasoned gossip journalist inside the White House. Why no one said, why is this guy in here? I don't know. That's part of the story. But what's happening now is this narrative has been given like a gift to the critics of the president, many of them in the media, that it proves what they've always believed. And the president this morning has used this medium, Twitter, to literally not just push back, not try and set the record straight, but to go all out, blunt force, and knock his detractors down at the same time that he's having perhaps the most critical meeting, and it's early yet in 2018, with his entire cabinet later today at Camp David to get his agenda done. These tweets just planting the flag saying, I'm not going to stand for this.
Republicans, you should start taking notes because this is how you fight back. You don't lay down. You fight back and say, this is not true. Here's why it's wrong. And ultimately,
I can't read your notes.
This is not, no, it's just a squiggle. It's not, I'm not actually taking notes. I'm just playing notes on TV.
Bad joke.
But Roger Stone, no, it's a good joke. Roger Stone, longtime confidant and advocate for the president, says ultimately all this noise, it doesn't matter. The agenda matters. Listen. I just made the point. I'm going to make it again because maybe I like to hear myself
just
talk.
In case you missed it the first time.
But no, they've never before had a dynamic where the president himself sets the agenda for the day based on what he decides to tweet in the morning or the afternoon. They are forced to report on it, and they hate it.
And I'm still just laughing at the school.
It is a big agenda, by the way, today.
They're called notes, not squiggles. Notes.
That agenda we were talking about, we've got to bring in Garrett Tinney.
That's right.
He's getting down to business at Camp David.
Dollars.
I would like
making people rich. Go out and buy a ticket.
Well, I'll tell you, if I win, I'm probably going to buy just a system that you just walk around in a heated environment because it is so cold here
right now.
I don't know what to do.
Do it. Do you have a good system heated environment you can recommend to Griff?
No, we'll make one. So look here, more than 1 million American workers are getting...
The gym says member requests were also a factor. So I'll help you read between the lines on that headline. They got a few emails from some people who don't like Fox News, so they shut them all off. Now, I can't watch news when I'm on the elliptical machine.
You know who doesn't need a gym?
What?
Adam Klotz, because he
Collapsed under the weight of himself on that one-arm push.
All right. Still ahead. House Intelligence Committee Chair
hire new employees. Here to debate it is Republican strategist Chris Prudhomme and former candidate for DNC chair Jammu Green. Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having
me. So Jammu, unemployment benefits are meant to serve as a hand up to help get someone to a place until they're gainfully employed. Isn't making sure someone's not on drugs a good place to start?
Well, I think that we need to look at what the results.
Would you have issue with making sure that taxpayers aren't supporting individuals who are on drugs, or making it somehow contingent on ensuring that someone's not on drugs? What's wrong with it on its face?
It's not smart policy.
Why not?
And we have the evidence from that. In this world of polarized politics that we're living in, I get when everything falls on a partisan level, but this is an area.
Department of Labor opening it up so more employers or in different industries can test their employees to make sure they're not on drugs. Look, we know that high schoolers, for athletes, can be tested for drugs, even middle schoolers. What do you make of that? Are you on board with giving employers the ability to test their employees and make sure that they can do their job correctly?
Absolutely, and I think.
Hold on, Jammu. I want to get Chris in here because we're running out of time. But it's not just that population. Chris, as I mentioned, there are numerous professions that require drug testing.
That's
Middle
right.
school athletes and high school athletes can be tested for drugs.
That's right.
So, what do you make of what Jammu just said?
So look, here's the thing. You have to go to work and earn money and be drug tested. So if you're going to get free money from the taxpayers, you should absolutely be drug tested. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Does that apply to
Hold on, Jammu.
It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with being discriminated against. It has nothing to do with classes, cultures. I don't care if you're black, white, green. It does not. And you cannot be prosperous as a child if you're seeing your environment around you with violence, domestic issues, and drug usage. It's time for
we're going to have to end it there because we're running out of time. Thank you both. We really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks, Lisa.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, Fixer Upper stars Chip and Joanna.
All right,
Take
up
care.
next, was your New Year's resolution to go on a diet? So which ones really work? Mine was not, but if it was, and which ones do not? We've got an expert to